losing your enthusiasm, but he's also a very, very good friend. That is the reason, while I have started to do a lot of things, if you look back and track it all the way from the beginning. So I'm thankful, I'm happy, and I'm really, really excited to go head to head with Sami Sulieman, the CEO of Plexian, amongst other things, and to have this time of 25 to 30 minutes to ask him some key questions and give you guys a lot of value through his life journey. So Sami, welcome.
Thank you very much. My pleasure to be here.
So we met, correct me if I'm wrong, we met, I think, was 2008 or 9.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Something like that. No, I'm not sure if it's 2008 or 9. Doesn't matter, but it has been a while now, and during those years, a lot has happened. So it feels actually like 20 plus years, that we've known each other. I don't recall not knowing you, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, exactly. That's the feeling.
Yeah, and you were the one that, when I took the decision to become an entrepreneur and make a shift from working for a governmental organization in Sweden, Malmö Stad. I had no contacts, within business. I had no experience. I had really nothing, and you were amongst the first that I met at BNE, the Business Network International, when I tried to broaden my horizons and obviously get in touch with more business people and future clients. You remember?
Yes, I tricked you to join.
Yes. And thank you for tricking me. I remember, you pulling me aside, and I didn't have, the money to actually pay the annual fee to join this team at Turning Torso. And you told me, Claudio, we're so excited to have you here in this team, that I'm going to do something that we never do with anyone. So please don't tell. And I was like, okay, what is that? You can divide the payments. So we really wanted to join, and I was like, wow, these guys, they really get it, how good I am and the potential. So I joined that team, and one of the first clients, the first client actually that I landed to BNE was Länsförsäkring, which is quite a big bank in Sweden, right?
Yeah.
So I'm thankful for that. And then we picked it on, and we had some conversation, and you told me, hey, Claudia, you need to learn about more and be, about sales, because I was really into therapy and solution focused methodology and so on. You say, you need to sell. And I told you, hey, Sami, you need to take a step back and, see people more and be more solution focused, and don't focus so much on sales. So that's when it started. The game of complementing each other. And you also introduced me to direct sales, taking me to a presentation, and during those years we've had a lot of fun together. You're a fellow high performer with Darren Hardy, right?
Yeah.
Mentor. I think we need another interview just to describe that trip to San Diego. But yeah, we've been staying in touch all those years and helping each other in different ways. And you're always there, giving advice and being really open and offering what you can give. I think that's really, really, it's great. And not a lot of people do that, especially long term. So I'm grateful to have you in my life and to pick your brain for 25 to 30 minutes now.
Wow, thank you. So that goes two ways. So I have the same feelings. So this is going to be a cool 20 minutes.
All right, so let's start. If you watch the Red Glove interviews before, I always start with gratitude. I think just being grateful and forcing yourself to be grateful and thankful opens up a lot of doors. And it also starts a process where you actually can get more of what's already working and what you already have in your life that you want to have, in a better way. First question is, right now at this moment, Sami, what are the 3 things that you're most grateful for happening in your life or having in your life, experiencing? Can you share that, please?
Sure. So that's That's quite a tricky question, because there's so much going on always in life that you very seldom take a step back and think about the things that you are gratitude towards. So some of the obvious things is my wife and my kids, the relationships that I am in, both within family but also outside with friends like you, for example.
Mhm.
And then a huge part is the people whom I work with, because together with them and clients and subcontractors, which are all relationships as well, that is what builds the lifestyle and the comfort that I have and that I seek.
All right. So it's a lot of those things, if not all, are people orientated, right?
Correct. Yeah.
All right. And yeah, you do have beautiful children and a great wife, you know, so obviously that's really important, you know, because if it doesn't function at home, then it's really, really hard to make it work out
Exactly.
right?
Agreed.
Yeah. So you need a sanctuary and people that you can trust, you know, which we often find out in the long run that there are not so many, especially when it doesn't go so well during periods. Yeah.
When in good times, everyone is loyal.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Cheering you on.
Exactly.
So when you were growing up, did you have a favorite superhero?
Yeah.
And who was that and why did you choose that one?
So why is a construct that I've come up with later. I don't know if when I was a kid I knew about it, but it was Superman.
Superman.
Yeah. And I think that one of the reasons is that he's a genuinely good guy. And as most other superheroes, he doesn't have a dark side. So he has weaknesses like all people, but he doesn't have a dark side. Many other superheroes have a dark side or an alter ego, but Superman doesn't have that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I've never heard that spin before, and I'm actually, you know, I've started to watch when I have a little time over a series on HBO called Krypton.
Okay.
Yeah, and that goes back to the times when, you know, Superman didn't exist. It's actually about his grandfather.
Oh yeah.
On Krypton, you know, and the whole thing. But now when you tell me what you tell me, that's right, you know, because when Superman gets born, he doesn't have a dark side. He just, yeah. All right.
So he's like any other person, but his strengths are super strengths, and same with his weaknesses. They're also super weaknesses, but that's like most superheroes, that's a metaphor for how we all are as human beings.
So you said you came up with why later.
Yeah.
And would you consider yourself character-wise to be like Superman, not having a dark side?
That's a question for someone else, for the people around me. I think we all have a dark side to us that we continuously battle with. Yeah.
Okay. So you think that everyone has a dark side?
I do.
Okay. So were you impressed by Superman not having a dark side? Or do you think that maybe he has a dark side too? Depending how you define the dark side, right? Because we'll have battles.
Exactly.
Yeah. Interesting. I'm going to pick up on that a little bit later. You know, let it marinate.
Yeah, let's see what comes up.
Yes. Okay, so let's get to the next question, and if you can please tell us, what are you working on at the moment? How did you get into where you are right now? And you know, when did you start? So what are you doing? We can start. What are you working on right now?
So right now what we're doing is I'm building Plexian, which is a Swedish fintech. And we are building mobile wallets on a MasterCard platform for big brands, big companies, And what we try to do is we try to give back massive value to the end user that already has a loyalty towards the brand or the company that we work with, to build a better loyalty platform, giving back more to the end users, so that that loyalty gets fixed and gets to be built stronger and stronger over time. And for the big brands to actually give back to the people who are raving fans or for some other reason have their loyalty towards those companies.
Okay. And why would I, let's say, as an entrepreneur, why would I want to choose Plexian, let's say, in a simple way?
Yeah, that's a very good question, because it depends on what type of business you are or what type of association you are. But typically it would be to get closer to your users, get closer to your customers or members, giving them value, giving them appreciation, making sure that they want to be sticking around and interacting with you.
Okay, so to keep them plugged in to you, that is.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. And how, I mean, you know, can you tell us a little bit about your journey? Because when I met you, you were running a JobZone, which is a recruiting outsourcing company, and then from there on you did a lot of things. And I mean, I know in San Diego in 2012 you decided to start a bank, and Darren Hardy asked you, why a bank, Sami? Why a bank? And I remember your answer, but if I mean, how did you tell us a little bit about your journey? How did you start as an entrepreneur to start with before JobZone? What happened?
Well, I think that that's been a part of me forever. I haven't ever fitted in anywhere. So going back to school, to the playground, school never fitted me, or I never fitted school, however you want to spin that. The same thing with getting a job, going to university, that never quite stuck with me. It didn't feel right for me. But growing up in the neighborhoods where I did, which is quite tough neighborhood in Malmo, there was no real way out except for just trying to get along with everyone and try to get a job and get out of there. But a couple of years later, I realized that I should probably start my own company. But that was more or less, I think we'll come to that, but out of necessity, because I didn't see myself 9 to 5, just doing that for 40 years and then what?
Okay. All right. So when because I remember you told me, and correct me if I'm wrong here, right? You were working for Manpower for a while, was it? Or?
Yes, I did, as a recruitment consultant.
Yeah, and you broke some records when it comes to sales.
I always do.
So it started at Manpower, right? And I want to bring in the sales concept, because a lot of people are scared of sales. And I read something just today that if you're not good, if you don't like sales, then you're not good at life. Because a lot of things, if not all, are connected to some kind of transaction or sales where you persuade someone, or it's service. And even at home, the sales are always on, and so on. So, and I think that is a big handicap, because people, and I was amongst one of them, they walk around every day thinking that sales is something ugly.
Well, I was one of them.
You were okay. So how did you start with sales? Because that is a lot of sales in what we're doing at Manpower. When did you find out that you were good at it, or were you good at it from the beginning, or did you harness your skills? Or can you please, if you can go back and remember?
Yeah, so that was one of the defining moments in my life, was when I was sitting as an IT consultant. This is back in, I think it's like 18 years ago, something like that, when tech and IT was happening around the millennium. I went into tech and I got an education, and I sat there and I had the job that everyone wanted, running a network department, and it killed me. So each day I died a little bit more inside. So my wife actually, she was my girlfriend at that time, forced me to go to an interview for a sales job. And I actually thought that she was kidding, because sales was the worst thing you could do. It was ugly, it was bad. Everyone hated sales and salespeople. But since she made the appointment, I went there and I spoke to the recruiting sales manager, and he hired me on the spot, which came out of the blue for me. I didn't understand why. And since I hated what I was doing, she forced me to resign and to actually take that leap of faith. And I've never looked back. So it just worked for me.
Wow. So obviously that person saw something quite fast, right?
Obviously.
In you. Obviously.
Something.
So it's not just like, hey, we need people, whomever, just let's hire this one. But obviously that person must have seen something within you that he knew straight away, right?
Yeah, I think so. And that was one of the toughest sales gigs I've ever had. It was one of the toughest sales schools. So first day, Monday morning, he gave me the yellow pages, and he gave me a geographical place not far from where I live. And he said, okay, so just book 20 meetings, go out there and sell our ads, do some interviews, and write an article, send it in to the editors, and see you next Monday. And then he just left.
Okay.
So I was like, so what do I say? How do I book the appointments? And he looked at me and said, well, figure it out. And he went. So that was my sales education.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. And you broke a big record, am I correct?
Yeah, so yeah, in Manpower I did. That was a couple of years later. So we had a global sales day. All consultants had to book meetings that day for Manpower's either recruitment or staffing. And when we had the kickoff, the chief executive of Manpower had his rally speech over the whole of Sweden. So we had a couple of 500 something, 50 people listening in, and they announced that all the prizes that we would win if we came first, second, and third, and so on. And I knew at that moment that I wanted to make everyone in Manpower know me. I wanted to make an impression, and I wanted to put myself in a position where I cannot fail. And this was like 3 months after I started. So I said that I would like to add one prize. Since I'm going to win, I will give the runner-up a dinner. So at that moment, I had to win. And everyone in Sweden was chasing me. So I was like 550 people. So I just had to win. I couldn't back out of that.
So you went all in.
I went all in. Win or resign. That was more or less my choices.
Yeah. And you kind of have done that all along. If we look back at the businesses that you have run and what you're doing right now, there is no middle ground for you, right? It's 0 or 100.
Yeah.
And we talked about that before, that there are certain types. We call them the Da Vinci types that have the artist gene, and that started by us reading the book, The Da Vinci Method. Remember that actually outlined for the first time for me, that, hey, there are about 10% of the population that are the Da Vinci types, and they have no middle ground. It is 0 or 100. So they cannot go like the normal types on 30-40%.
Correct.
And you are 100% Da Vinci. And
yes. Unfortunately.
Unfortunately.
There's a lot of pain that comes with that.
Yes, it is. but also a lot of great things are built by Da Vinci's.
Definitely.
And with the help of the normal types, because both groups need each other just as much. You know, if everyone would be a Da Vinci, chaos. If none, darkness. You know, so
exactly.
Yeah, I just want to stick a little bit longer on sales. So, if someone that is watching right now, you know, that has just maybe started his or her own company, or you know, has been doing that for a while, or you know, thinks about starting their company, or is doing something at the side, could be direct sales. That's a great example. You know, it's a huge market around the world with different companies that thinks that, hey, sales is not for me, sales is ugly. What would you say to that person? How would that person overcome that mindset? You know, some easy steps, and why should they change their mindset? Because you know, some people, they just don't like sales. You know, don't want to have anything to do with it.
Yeah, that's a tricky question, because I was one of them. So and I was obviously wrong. And what I've learned is that everything comes out of sales. So when you get a job, it starts with you selling yourself on your resume, when you call the company, when you book the meeting, when you go for the interview, when you sign the contract. Everything is sales. You're selling yourself. When you are in the job, you're selling your ideas to your manager, to your team members. If you're a manager, you're selling your ideas to your manager, but also to your team members, to get your ideas heard, get your ideas realized. So sales is going on all over the time. When we guys try to get a woman to notice us, or vice versa, that's also sales. We try to show ourselves from the best potential angle. We try to do everything we can to get noticed, to present ourselves well. So sales is all around us, and without sales, there is no organization, because all transactions start with sales calls, sales meetings, marketing. That's where all transactions start, and all transactions typically involve the flow of money, and you create value. So if you're in commodities, it's hard, but if you are in adding value, then you are creating value, and that should be something that you should always try to do. Selling commodities is really, really tough. It's hard to find margins in that. So you should always try to add value. If you have value, there shouldn't be a reason why you shouldn't try to sell it, why you shouldn't try to present it to people, and let them make up their decision if what you're bringing to the table is good. And if it is, there's nothing wrong with sales. The thing that people typically think about is the old door-to-door knocking, trying to sell a vacuum cleaner that is $3,000 or $4,000, that isn't worth anything, that will break down, that is crap. But that's fraud. That's not sales. That's something totally different. So you should always think about the right side of sales, so to say.
Thank you. Great explanation. I like the value part. If you think that what you have is valuable enough, then I mean, you should really focus on spreading that to more people. That's, you know, what sales is about, right? It's actually communicating an idea, a concept, a product, a service, so more people can get access to it. And I mean, if you make money, because that's another topic that some people feel it's, let's not talk about it, especially here in Scandinavia. But everybody's, I mean, dependent on that. And when the cash flow does not come in, a lot of things are happening. You know, you lose your relationship, you lose, you know, your peace of mind. You can get really, really sick if that is going on long term. You cannot do anything with your visions of helping a lot of people, or, you know, building a church, if that is, or starting a school, you know. So it's, and if you track it back, it's all connected to value and sales. So great. Okay, let's move on now. We hear a lot of things about success, and just today I received feedback. You know, I'm running a project, and one of the feedbacks, because we always bring on the positive feedback, you know, so I bring on some negative feedback, and one of the negative feedbacks I got from this one was someone saying that, hey, you know, I felt like pretty much the whole project was about success and money, you know, and I really don't like that. It's all about, you know, success. I don't like that, and I don't see myself, you know, being helped with what you went through. So that made me think again of, you know, the definition of success, you know, because we just throw around with the term success, and a lot of people think success financial, which could be for someone, you know, but I really think that more people should think for themselves, what is success for me? What is my definition of success? And not just go around with the term, chasing something that we don't even know what it means to us on an individual level. So what is your definition of success? That is the question.
That's another very, very hard question, because it's a subjective word that means there's no true explanation for what that word is, because it's just a word that we have put on something. And most people, as you say, think that success has to do with money. And by default, they don't like money because they heard someone say that money is the root of all evil, even though I would say it's on the contrary, but that's a different topic.
Yeah.
But I think that the pursuit of success that is all around us in the society, I think that what people really is pursuing is peace of mind. And peace of mind is a much, much harder thing to pursue, because you can't pursue peace of mind. Peace of mind is something that comes from within, and comes from paradigm shifts, and comes from insights, and comes from thin air. So that's a mind shift that you need to bring. But success in itself is a relative term, because everyone, 100% of the people in Sweden are successful if you compare them to people who are living on the streets, living under a bridge, doesn't have any money for food, and starving. So the 1-something billion people that lives in absolute poverty. So just by that, just by being born here, or by some chance ending up here, you are successful in those relative terms. But we typically compare ourselves to the people that live close to us, or live around us, our neighbors or our friends. And in that sense, it's harder to be successful, because you typically are around people who are just like you. You're the average of the people that you are around.
Yes.
And so if you want to be successful, you have to be some of the best within what you do. If it's health, or if it's making money within finance, banking, or if you are in construction or athlete, or whatever you're doing, typically the definition of a successful person or a successful company is if you do better than the other ones that compare to you. So it's very important to figure out who you want to compare yourself with. And being an entrepreneur, typically we compare ourselves to the absolute best of the world, like Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, Richard Branson, Elon Musk, and so on, which means that we will never have peace of mind, because it's very, very hard to get to those levels that they have, which means that it's innate for an entrepreneur and a driven person, a person with high ambition, to get peace of mind. So that's the catch-22 of it. But I think that it's a relative term. So you have to look at who you want to compare yourself with to get a goal, and then go achieve that goal. The problem with that is that you will always, as you progress, you will always move that milestone.
Exactly. So so what is success for you? How do you define it? Because you talked about the term, but how would you define success for yourself, Sami?
So for me, success in business is that we must be the best of what we do. We cannot be number two, because there is, in today's society, there is no place for number two. I mean, if you look at search engines, social media, and so on, there's only one in each field. So once we reach that number one position, I would say we are successful.
And on a personal level, if you take away the business, what is success for you? You know what I mean?
So I would say I'm already successful, because I have a wonderful family. I have very high level of comfort in my life. I have a house. I have all the material stuff that I need. I have the relationships. I mean, each thing can always get incrementally better. But from a personal level, I feel that I am successful and I'm living the life that I want at this time. And that will, as I said, progress, and that will always be moving forward. So I will always be wanting more in life. But I'm trying to have peace of mind in each step, and accept that things take time. And that's okay.
Yeah, for sure. Wow, thanks a lot for that. You know, I really like, you know, when you said that success is relative, and that is true. And also who you compare yourself with. I think that's critical on both sides, you know, because if you compare yourself with someone that is worse off, you know what I mean, in certain areas and aspects, that could be something really good, because it forces you to recognize where you are at the moment and all the good things that are happening. On the other side, if you compare yourself with someone that is worse than you in business, you won't progress as much. But if you compare yourself to someone that, you know, like you said, Steve Jobs or Elon Musk and so on, and you're not ready to put in the work and the commitment, and you just compare it, you're going to feel really, really bad. You know, so it's all about balancing who you're comparing yourself with, which is not easy. But it's important to at least be reminded of where you are at the moment, and really identifying that with clarity.
Otherwise, you'll just be miserable. Even if you have an excellent life, you'll still be miserable, because you're measuring to something that you shouldn't be.
All right. Well, time is flying, so let's move on. What book has influenced you the most, and why? If you can share that, that would be awesome.
Sure. So there are several books that have influenced me over the years. Some books have been more important than others in different times when I needed them. So some of them is Think and Grow Rich. There's one book called Rich Dad Poor Dad. Think Big. The Dip is a very, very good book. 3 Principles on the topic of trying to get peace of mind.
Okay.
So there's a lot of books. There's one that I read last summer called Never Split the Difference, which is one of the best negotiation books I've ever read, who was written by the head negotiator for the FBI on who flew all over the world trying to get to negotiate with terrorists and to try to get people who were kidnapped back alive without paying, because the U.S. government doesn't pay for terrorists. So really, really interesting book.
Awesome. I mean, that a lot of books, you know, and we will post them, right, in the comment fields afterwards.
We can do it, yeah, definitely.
With names, so don't worry about it if you haven't had the time to write it down. Not a lot of people write down things anymore. It's all, you know, in the phone and stuff. We will post it, you know. And some of those books I'm really excited to read myself, because some of them I read, but I think you had a few there that I haven't, you know, especially this one with the negotiating. So we're gonna post it, okay? Don't worry. And now to the last question of the interview. if you had the opportunity to leave one message behind you, so the whole world could see it, what would that message be? So people see it after you're gone. This is what I want, you know, the world to think about, or to ponder on with after a life well lived. What would that message be from you, Sami, to the world?
Well, I think it's 100 years too early to give you that message. Let's get back to that when I'm lying there on my getting my last breath. But I think that at least now it would be to believe in yourself and to take action. That's the two things that I think that people need more of: believing themselves, and once you do that, take action. Because without action, you get nowhere. Without believing yourself, you won't start taking action. So I think those two things are really, really important if you want to get some change in your life.
So believe in yourself and take action.
Yeah.
Is there any specific order, or can taking action actually lead you to more belief?
It can. Yeah, it's an interesting cycle. So as you know, NLP has the circle where if you take action, you get results. Results will give you belief. Belief will make you take more action, and so on. So
exactly,
I really believe that if you have a bad day, if you have a dip, just do some action and you'll get energy afterwards. Doesn't matter results. Just get out of bed, start doing something, and your mind will shift and you'll forget about it being a bad day.
Awesome. Thank you, Sami. If you guys have any questions, now is the time to ask it. And meanwhile, how can people get in touch with you, Sami?
So the best way is either through Facebook or LinkedIn. So I'm quite active on both those platforms.
So Sami Sulieman, and we're gonna post that in the comment fields. So sure. Facebook and LinkedIn.
Yeah.
All right. Well, with that, have a great evening or day wherever you are, and remember, like Sami said, belief and action. Those are the two key ingredients for creating anything of value. Sami, thank you so much for participating. It's been an honor. And who would have thought when we met at Business Network International that we would do Facebook Live?
Facebook almost didn't exist back then.
Exactly. So don't underestimate the possibilities when you have belief, action, and consistency. You know. So thank you so much. Take care, everyone.